Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Boys in the Zone. I am your host, EJ Savage, but we got my guy, Mike Guido, back in the building. A little bit under the weather, but other than that, man, how are you doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. Yeah, definitely under the weather. It was the same yesterday when I was doing my baseball show yesterday, but we're making it through, We're going to make it through.
Absolutely. If you guys are interested in baseball, do make sure that you check out Bi-Coastal Baseball with Mike Guido. That's also on the Grid Network, GRYD Network. Search it up on YouTube. My show is streamed over there. But if you're kicking it on my personal channel, always show support there as well. Like the video, subscribe, leave a comment. It only helps the algorithms, guys, and I cannot appreciate you guys enough. So, first thing on the docket, and we got my guy Jeff Hollis in the building. He's saying, "Evening, guys. What's up? What's up, Jeff? I'm glad to have you in here." First thing on the docket is, of course, the Cowboys' big victory over the New York Giants, 40-37 in an overtime thriller. Initial thoughts on that, Mike? What were they?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a wild turnout, right? Like that was just a wild game from start to finish. Obviously, the defenses left much to be desired on both sides.
Absolutely.
And again, I'm sure we're going to talk about just full blown takeaways and everything in specifics a little bit later. But one of the things that really stood out to me, and it stood out to me really for the last 2 weeks, is I'm honestly surprised that 2 weeks in, I feel like the Cowboys are actually well coached. Like it's odd. Like I really went into this season thinking that Brian Schottenheimer as a hire was a joke. Like I honestly thought it was a joke. Like it honestly felt like the Cowboys were doing the most Jerry thing ever of just like hiring, like he had like a gut feeling about some guy and hired somebody that just had no business getting the job. I don't know. They look kind of put together. They look prepared. They look energetic. Like this looks like a fairly well coached. I mean, the offensive scheme and the play calling and the pre-snap motion. I mean, all of that looks better than it has in a number of years. I mean, I don't know. I come away from these last 2 weeks thinking they're a pretty well coached team.
Yeah, for like if we're gonna go into Brian Schottenheimer first, I will say there was a little bit too many penalties yesterday, or was that yesterday? No, 2 days ago on Sunday. 106 yards penalty yardage for I think 12 penalties or so. So that part of it is still a problem. But that first game we were pretty good in the penalty department. But there was a lot of penalties in that game anyways. I think there was like 266 total penalty yards with accounting for the Giants as well. But just from the players' demeanor out there on the field and what they're kind of showing that joy to play for Brian Schottenheimer, I've got to say it is refreshing a little bit. Now, of course, every coach is going to have their guys in the locker room that they just gravitate towards or they have a better relationship with, of course. But it seems like every player, for the most part, likes Brian Schottenheimer. And that's one of the things that I've noticed as well. So I like that you're bringing that up first. And it's kind of manifested into a way where it's not just, going out there and playing for your coach, but it also is representing what it means to, have that culture back and wear the star as well. I feel like that's a little bit more at the forefront of players' minds as well nowadays. Under Brian Schottenheimer.
Yeah.
Continue with your point though.
There's certainly a sense of pride, I think, that comes with wearing the star on your helmet. I mean, that's certainly something that's been instilled in this locker room under this regime. And, there was a bit of a side of me that felt that when they hired Brian Schottenheimer and then they made all of these hires with no-name coordinators and nobody knew who anybody was, right? Because we had, like, when Mike McCarthy got hired, he's a Super Bowl winning coach. He coached Aaron Rodgers, had a ton of success in Green Bay. There's some history there. Dan Quinn, a former head coach. Like, these were big name sort of guys. And we liked that coaching staff for the most part. I mean, Mike McCarthy had his mixed reviews on a lot of different things as far as clock management and all of that stuff. But all together, I think a lot of people said, well, this coaching staff could definitely be worse. Now we're looking at it. We went into this season with zero expectations for this coaching staff, with a bunch of no-name guys that nobody's ever heard of. And they look kind of good. Like, I hate to say it, but like, this looks pretty, again, like the Eagles, speaking about week one, the Eagles are at this point a top 2 or 3 team in the NFL, right? And they have been for the last couple of years, as much as it burns me to say that, right? But the truth be told, they have been super, super good for a number of years now. And that's a team that does a lot of things the right way, no matter how much Nick Sirianni seems like an egghead. But like, they were way more put together than the Eagles were. I mean, you're talking, we were having conversations about if CeeDee Lamb didn't lead the world in drops in week one, I mean, the Cowboys end up winning that football game, and we're having a completely different conversation about their season right now. So it is an interesting little.
Sorry to cut you off, Mike, but like realistically, if the Cowboys start 2-0, we're talking about Dak possibly being front runner for MVP. I mean, it's early in the season, but like that's kind of where you're at. You knock off the world champs and you push them into a win or start 0-2 against the Chiefs. And, you can talk about the Chiefs starting 0-2 as well. That's kind of a shocker as well. But the outlook for this team is completely different. One thing I want to just bring up, and Jeff brings up a great point here, seeing maturity and leadership from CD, Pickens stepping up. Dak looks different in a very good way. Like, all of those things are factual. Tyler Smith in his post-game interview is talking about George Pickens uplifting the team in the huddle during that fourth quarter and the overtime. Just having a guy that a lot of people have labeled as kind of a head case, as kind of a problem, a cancer to the locker room, uplifting the team and kind of catalyzing something to push those guys forward and motivate them. You're getting that from your guy that you're not expecting. I can't imagine what they're getting from the real leaders, which is a Dak. Of course, CD's had his struggles in the past with being a true leader, but I think stepping up and showing that he's willing to go work on the jugs machine and do things that, he probably hasn't done since he's been like a rookie or something like that. And put in the effort to show that, hey, this isn't going to be a problem moving forward. Now, he did have a drop this week, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but just the leadership is so much more mature from the guys that you've had a little bit of question marks in the past. I don't think that you have that question mark with Dak, but I do think that, like Jeff mentioned, there's a change in Dak as well. He looks different, and not only from a physical perspective, because he does look lighter and leaner, and you saw that on the scramble to get that final first down to set Brandon Aubrey for the game winner. But just his mobility in the pocket. We talk so much about this offensive line being so good, and Cooper Beebe out 6 to 8 weeks now. We'll talk about that. That's a big loss, but Dak's mobility in the pocket to move around has been so important for him, for this team moving forward. And not only that, but being able to take big hits and make throws on time. Huge part of this Cowboys offense thus far. But it does start with Brian Schottenheimer, like you mentioned.
Yeah, no, it certainly does. It certainly does. You brought up something that I wanted to talk about also with you, is that like Tyler Smith to me is really emerging as a big time leader. Like, I really feel that. Like, Tyler Smith feels like a captain. Feels like
next to Terrence Steele, like he's the vet on that line. You know what I mean?
Right. Now, as crazy as that sounds, right? Because it feels like yesterday when we drafted him. But no, 100%. You're right. I mean, and he's going to be a perennial Pro Bowler for a long time. He's very, very, very good. But yeah, I mean, just him like standing up for his teammate. Right. And nobody's really given George Pickens a hard time since he's been in Dallas. But the reputation that precedes him is this guy, like, just wait for him to cause issues. So far, he's been a delight in Dallas. He really has been. And he hasn't been somebody that's, and again, we're 2 weeks in, so a lot of this can change. Let's not pretend like this is all set in stone. But the positive about it is that through the first 2 weeks, He has not been the diva wide receiver that everybody thought he would be. He kind of understands that him and CD Lamb are meant to work as a tandem, right? They will work best if they can take advantage of the opportunities together, not just individually, right? So
Yeah.
that I think is real. Like the fact that that those two as a tandem are so secure in their abilities to where, they don't have to play this game of who's getting more targets. If George Pickens is not getting enough targets, he's not, pulling in enough balls. Like there doesn't seem to be that element of this team right now. Like we could be having a conversation after a couple of losses, in 5 weeks where this is all changing. But as of right now, it feels very stable. It feels very put together. So I'm happy to see it through the first 2 weeks, 1-1. I mean, again, like I would have liked to beat the Eagles on Thursday night to open the season, but
Yeah.
it's hard to be upset as a Cowboy fan today if you're watching the first 2 weeks and this is the team you're seeing. I hate to say it, but I'm pretty confident.
Yeah. And there's a little bit about that. Coming into this week, I think the Cowboys kind of got put on surprise with how the Giants really attacked them. You got to remember they're coming off the long week. I mean, they played on Thursday night. The Giants didn't play until Sunday, so you've got an advantage right there. Your guys are fresher, their bodies feel better. Plus, you have that extra time to game plan and really digest the film and kind of see what they're doing. And also see your errors and your mistakes that you made in your game. I thought that it was very interesting that the Cowboys kind of got off to that slow start, but that didn't bury them like it has in the past. Now, of course, you are facing the Giants that you've won, and the title underneath me says how many straight is that? Not as many straight for the Cowboys as a unit as it is for Dak, who's now at 14 straight against the Giants. That's incredible, and that's the longest streak ever against one team. It seems like, based on my searches on this. Just insane. Dak's win percentage against the Giants is insane. It's Brady versus the Bills-esque. So very impressive from that. But they did kind of get punched in the mouth. And that goes to, the credit for that goes to Dak, this offense, and then the coaching staff to kind of get those guys in line and figure some things out. Remember, after the second half, Dak goes out there and he throws an interception. Now, I don't believe that should have been an interception. I thought after review, it looked like the ball rolled on the ground, but it was an interception on the stat line. So he throws that interception. He doesn't let that cloud his judgment and, damper his day moving forward. That's a big step compared to what we've seen from Dak in the past, where he does kind of get that tunnel vision and doesn't see some guys every now and then. So Dak has been balling. He's been dealing. Really, that's the only throw I've seen from Dak that was just like all season. So, it's hard because I don't even want to fault him because, if you're going to throw an interception, I always say throw it when targeting your best player. And that's kind of one of those FU balls that Dak throws time and time again, where he's like, he just has so much trust. And we have a graphic here in just a second. I might as well just pull it up right now. This has, which one is it? The throwaway is supposed to be the orange on that graph. Dak does not throw the ball away right now. He needs to throw the ball away a couple more times during the game and not take sacks. But right now he's just in a zone that is insane. 12% better on target throws than any other quarterback in the NFL. And that other quarterback being Daniel Jones is crazy in itself. But still 83% right there. Dak, 9% of the time he's taking a sack, 3% of the time it's an off target throw or a batted down throw. And then the other 6 is a scramble for yardage. So Dak is just playing at an unworldly level right now, and that just speaks to how comfortable he is in this Brian Schottenheimer offense, man. Really, really fun to watch thus far. Any points on that?
It really is. If you could pull the graphic up one more time, just because there's something I want to mention as well too, is that not only is second on this list Daniel Jones for the Colts, but the third is Sam Darnold. For the Seahawks, which shows you how the state of New York develops quarterbacks. But anyway, no, you're 100% right. I mean, I think this version of Dak Prescott is a bit more energized, I think,
Mhm.
because I'll even say this, and I've been, you know, me as a pessimist when it comes to Dak Prescott. I have been very, very critical of him in the past.
Mhm.
Um, and I will continue to be, because I think I think that's the right way to view him in a clear lens. But the reality of that situation is that for the first 2 weeks he looked really, really good. The
Mhm.
the accuracy has been outstanding. I mean, he's fitting balls into really, really tight windows. He is certainly more mobile than he's been in the past couple of years, because AJ, I think even you would have to admit that, especially in the past 2 seasons, right? Barring health, right?
Mhm.
Over the past 2 seasons, it's almost felt like Dak had a little bit taken off of his fastball and he just wasn't moving with a sense of urgency, right? There wasn't any, like, he felt like a statue. He
Mhm.
felt like a
Yep.
guy who became like, the injuries got to him. He's a pure pocket passer. There's no real escapability anymore. And that's the Dak we've gotten to know over the past couple of years. This is not the Dak that we've seen for the first 2 weeks. It just simply is
Yep.
not. He's been able to escape the pocket, extend plays. His arm looks stronger. It looks faster. It looks more accurate. Now, again, it's early in the season, and everybody's pure healthy coming off the offseason. Like, they're
Yeah.
all at their healthiest right now. So again, it's tough to have these conversations right now just because we are so early in the season and so much can change over the next 4 months.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
the reality is that Dak looks good, and I think the fact that he feels confident in a young, up and coming offensive line, right? That offensive line is strong. And honestly, like, we've genuinely, at least as far as I've seen, and I'm sure we're going to touch on it a little bit later as well,
Mhm.
but I've seen legitimate improvement from Tyler Guyton. I've seen legitimate, like, obviously up until the injury, right? Legitimate improvement from Cooper Beebe. Tyler
Mhm.
Booker looks like he's going to be a monster. Like, there's real potential in this offensive line. And then adding George Pickens, who, again, his career numbers don't jump off the chart as a true number one receiver, but having that ability, he's got that talent to be opposite of CeeDee Lamb and kind of be almost a down the field threat. He can kind of just do a lot of different things as a receiver. So,
Mhm.
listen, we said this, during our draft coverage and everything like that. If the Cowboys could simply just find a way to run the football effectively, and the jury is still out. Javonte Williams had a good game and a bad game so far this season, but if they can find a way to run the football effectively, then I think this offense could be very, very, very good. So, yeah, listen, I'm excited to see what they do over the next couple of weeks. I mean, they're going to be going against a Bears defense um, next Sunday that just got
Giving up a lot of points.
obliterated by Detroit. So
Yeah.
we're going to see exactly if they can take advantage of that. But yeah, man, this feels like, I said, and this, I think it's almost like a theme of what this show has kind of turned into right now. It just feels like a very energized, put together Cowboy team that we're not used to, quite frankly. The past number of years, we're just not used to seeing the Cowboys like this.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Javonte Williams. I think that he's actually strung together 2 good games. I think you were trying to mention, Miles Sanders and with the first game. Um, but Javonte, he's kind of impressed. He kind of looks like an old vintage, version of himself as well. He busted off another nice big run, 2 days ago on Sunday, and just having a guy that you can trust. He had a lot of dump offs, that Dak just put out there for him, and he gained yards. He's tough. He bruises the defense and kind of wears them
He's been
down throughout
very
the
good at the
game.
goal line. Very, very good at the
Um,
goal line. Yeah.
yeah, I just, from what I've seen from him, I'm actually, kind of, I won't say impressed, but just I'm surprised, because that was not the same version that we've seen the last 2 years in Denver. Post ACL tear, from Javante. So just coming from that, and my expectations were pretty low, but he's looked really good thus far.
Yeah.
We'll see if he can hold up. And if he does, I think that you've got something, especially if you can get Jaden Blue in there and give that kind of change of pace back to that guy. Cause I don't think Miles Sanders has anything,
No.
despite some of the really good blocking that he sees. And
Yep.
that's complete credit to Clayton Adams, your offensive coordinator / offensive line kind of run scheme coordinator. I think that's just it's been great. Everything the offense has shown, and I want to mention this: George Pickens, even though the stats haven't popped out quite like we've kind of expected them
Yep.
to, he has drawn massive amounts of pass interference calls downfield, where it got Dallas down the field, where it doesn't show up on the stats, but it's
Right.
like 40 yards they're gaining net because of a penalty that George Pickens, you know, uh, initiates because he's so hard to deal with down there
Right.
on those deep shots. And that's so good because what we really wanted from Brandon Cooks being that deep guy is exactly what George Pickens is, because he allows all the short intermediate balls to go to CeeDee Lamb where he really can cook and he can get those yards after the catch attempts. And then he clears the safety on the back end is what George Pickens does. So
Yep.
really nice from what I've saw from that offense. But we're going to shift it over to the defensive unit because they let up 37 points to the New York Giants. Wow. Russell Wilson's best game of his career from a passing standpoint, 450 yards, 2 touchdowns. Actually, he might have had 3 touchdowns if I'm
3
if I
touchdowns.
remember. Yeah,
Just
3 touchdowns. Of course, the interception, bad interception under pressure from Sam Williams, throws it up, and it's just easiest pick of Donovan Wilson's career, and really saved a bad performance from Donovan Wilson to kind of look like, oh, he's a little bit of a savior. But overall, man, that defense is worrisome for me. I think the pass rushers just not getting as much pressure as they need to. That starts on the edges. I think Kenny Clark has been really good. I think Oso Odigizua has been good. I think Solomon Thomas as your third defensive tackle has been pretty solid. So happy, and we haven't talked yet since they've finally sat down Mozzie's, but I'm just so elated that we finally have coaches in here that don't care about what Jerry says, and it's just like, dude, he's not good enough. We're not playing him. Point blank. Period. Thank God for that, and we can get some Jay Toya in there, mixed in there. Defensive tackles have actually impressed me thus far. The edges, other than James Houston, who is getting minimal snaps right now, have been bad. Dante Fowler, he's down, falling down based on projections from where he was. 10 sacks last year for the Commanders, but he's just been awful thus far in this 2025 campaign. Sam Williams, of course, he's coming off the injury. I can give him a little bit of leeway because, you know, he is rehabbing and getting back into the flow of things. They did sign Jadeveon Clowney, which we'll talk about here in just a second, but
Sure.
Ezeraku and Marshawn Nealon. Nealon looked really good in that first game, tapered off this game, and Ezeraku is just realistically, he's not ready. He's not big enough, strong enough right now for NFL football. And so I do kind of think that you have to take his snaps down and give James Houston a little bit more, because he's the only one that's really getting pressure on the quarterback consistently. Now shifting back to Jadeveon Clowney, what are your expectations for him? Where do you think that he fits in with this team? I know he's a solid run stopping edge. I don't know how much pass rush he gives you nowadays in his career. But he hasn't been going through any training camp at all, just signed off the streets. Like, realistically, he says he's going to play against the Chicago Bears. What are you expecting? How much can he actually help this young unit?
I mean, he's going to have depth. I mean, he's a fresh body, but I don't know what you can expect from Jadeveon Clowney anymore at this point in his career. I mean, at no point in Jadeveon Clowney's career did he even look like what he was projected to look like. He never put together a double-digit sack season. Like, I don't have that much of an expectation for him. I think he's going to be Marshawn Nealon. I think he's going to be a solid, like you said, run defending edge that will occasionally get pressure, but that's about it. Like, I think he's just going to be a rotational defensive end at this point. That's the first real issue with this defense. By the way, big shocker, right? You trade Micah Parsons, and then
Yeah.
what do you know? You can't get pressure on anybody. Look, words cannot describe how angry I was at Jerry Jones when he traded Micah Parsons, regardless of the fact that we've got 4 first-round picks the next 2 years. Listen, I don't care. Like, Micah Parsons is Micah Parsons. The guy's an alien. Like, you can't. Though he's on a list of guys in the NFL that you just simply don't trade. But I agree with you. I think that the issues with this defense start there. They don't get pressure off the edge right now, right? I am a big fan, and you know this, right? Because, again, the draft stuff that we do, I'm a big fan of Donovan Ezaraku. I think he, as a pure, chase the quarterback edge rusher, I think he's going to have a long career. I think he's a very, very good player. Yeah. But you're right. His body's a little thin. And,
for sure.
Yeah, right. But he needs time. He's one of those guys that is not going to walk into the NFL day one and have 10 sacks. Like, he's not. It's going to take him a year to
if he did, the game. It would have been as the beneficiary of a Michael Parsons on the other side. You know what I mean?
Right,
where all the attention is over there and you're facing these one-on-ones.
Right, exactly. He would have been one-on-one the entire year, and now he's not, right? Because now the Cowboy pass rush is more schemed against rather than we need to take this guy out of the game, right? So that's really it. James Houston, I mean, he looks pretty good for the first couple of games. I mean, I'm not going to hang my hat that he's going to be the premier pass rusher of this team. I don't know that he is. This is a pass rush unit that really needs their young players to kind of step up into big roles, right? Like I said, we just talked about Ezaraku, and that's a lot to ask of a young man like that. And I don't know that we're going to get that out of him this year. Like I said, I think he's going to have a long career, but you need guys like Marshawn Nealand to be the bully that he was in college, right? Like, you need him to be able to put pressure on the edges. And again, on the interior defensive line, I'm with you. In 2 years of Mozzie Smith's career, I don't remember him even shedding a tackle, shedding a block. He just doesn't move in a defense at all. I've never seen anything like it, especially from a first-round pick. I think creating more snaps for the Kenny Clarks, for the Solomon Thomases, for the Jay Toias, right? I think though that's where you need to kind of put that investment in the interior defensive line. Also, I do want to point out for last week's game, the absence of Deron Bland showed. It really did. It showed because you've got I'm a big Trayvon Diggs guy. I think Trayvon Diggs at this point in his career is a much different player than he was early on in his career, where he was just a big play. He gets burnt, but I don't know that he's that guy anymore. I feel like he's more of that true consistent corner now than he was earlier in his career. But I do think this defense needs a lot of help over the top. You want to talk about guys that, I think adding a legitimate ball hawking safety is something that this defense desperately needs, right? Because when they get beat, they get beat. There's very little help when receiver.
Caleb Downs.
What's that?
I said there's a guy named Caleb Downs.
Yeah. Well, listen, if we could maneuver that, but no, 100%. When Cowboy corners get beat, they get beat among the worst in the league because there's nobody over the top protecting them, right? Donovan Wilson, as much as I love him, Donovan Wilson's more of a box safety than he is a coverage safety, right? Malik Hooker is 30 years old. It's just not the same sort of group that can legitimately help. I mean, you have 2 elite corners. Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland are elite corners. And I think the depth beyond them, especially when Siobhan Revelle is healthy, then I think you've got a really solid group of corners with Kalen Carson and Kyer Elam and guys like just as depth guys. I think that's a really solid group, but they definitely need help over the top. They're not getting that help in the safety department where that if Russell Wilson wants to go up for a big play, which we saw him do multiple times in week 2, there's just nobody there to get you when your coverage gets blown. You know what I mean? So
and sorry to cut you off. My main thing with this corner group is, one, Diggs is rehabbing, We know that. Like, yeah, he came
Yeah,
back early, but he's still rehabbing. You can't expect him to. And I know Eberflus is asking these guys to play off on cushions 10 yards down the field, but that's not Diggs. Diggs, when he's at his best, he's jamming the receivers, he's running with guys from the start.
right,
He's not backpedaling, then flipping his hips and running with guys like that. He's a guy that has to be handsy, physical up at the top, and then he makes his moves at the stem of the routes where he can kind of bait quarterbacks into those interceptions. Um, excuse me, Kyer Elam, he looked pretty good game one. They played a lot of zone coverage. It's easy to kind of, um, and this is maybe a little bit overcritical on Jalen Hurts, but Jalen Hurts is a guy that you can disguise stuff or show him certain stuff, and he's not going to know how to beat it, like a Russell Wilson is. Russell
right.
Wilson's seen zone coverages throughout his entire career. He knows exactly where the soft spots are. When Jalen Hurts is really good, it's because other teams are playing man against Devontae Smith and AJ Brown and Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley on wheel routes or whatever it is, because they're so concerned about his legs. Um, that's and mind you, you got burnt because you did play zone and you didn't have the spies that could actually go and tackle Jalen Hurts in that game one.
Right.
So moving on to the game two, though, you played 97% zone again, and the Giants came in knowing that you played 100% zone last game, so they're willing to know exactly what they have to do to beat you. They knew that you're playing that too high stuff, so they beat you up the seams. When you adjust, then you're playing that um, uh, single high safety look, and you're asking the single high safety to be Donovan Wilson. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Donovan Wilson's a guy that's got to be moving forward, not backwards. If you're asking him to be backwards and be a free range safety, it's just going to go bad for you. It's going to go poorly for you. And I think that this collapse the defense, if you can call it a collapse. I kind of expected the defense to be kind of bad this season, but it starts with Matt Eberflus. If you're not going to play to your players' strengths, that's where you're going to get beat. Remember how Dan Quinn came in here and what he did with the old Seahawks teams and how he oriented stuff. He played a lot of zone coverage, a lot of cover three. He came here and they played a lot of man coverage. He switched it up. He played safeties in the linebacker position. So he had free range linebackers that could cover sideline to sideline. He did some different things. Matt Eberflus has not, and it's showing desperately on the field right now. You're not willing to dial up pressure, and you're asking your corners to play 10 yards off. That's a recipe for disaster. Um, I I don't necessarily know how to fix it, except for either A, dial up some actual pressure, send your guys, or B, allow your players to do what they do best, which means Donovan Wilson, you're the box safety. You come down, you play a linebacker role if you need to. You go forward and you hit stuff. Hooker, you're on the back end as a free range safety. Now, I know that that takes away a lot of disguises on the back end. You can't roll your safeties at post snap, and you can't confuse the quarterbacks, but you don't want to do that when it's Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker. Two different skill sets completely. Those guys are not interchangeable. Um, Diggs and Elam, you've got to get those guys up. Elam is a lengthy corner. Diggs is a lengthy corner. You want to use that length at the line of scrimmage to jam the receivers, get the timing off on those routes. And that's not what they're doing right now. That's where the biggest problem is. Then you factor in the poor linebacker play. Kenneth Murray had one drive where he looked great. Then the next three, terrible, terrible, terrible. Sanborn, you cannot ask that guy to cover. I cannot wait until we get Overshown back, because it's going to be night and day for this linebacker core, as long as he's healthy and comes back, at the
Yeah.
same pedigree that he was. Yeah, right now, defense really worrisome. Offense looking possibly the best in the league. I mean, we're talking about averaging 30 points per game right now. I know small sample size, only 2 games. One of the games against the Giants. Eagles didn't have Jalen Carter, but realistically, I mean, the Cowboys didn't play the best that they could have either of those games either. Dak, uncharacteristic throw on the interception. And then the many drops, and not only the Eagles game, but this game as well. I mean, you're talking about Ferguson with more drops again. You're talking about CD with another drop. You're talking about uh, who else was the other drop from? I think Schoonmaker had another drop again. So
Yeah.
there's yardage left on the field for this offense. If they can get the dropsies out of their system, really the sky's the limit for this offense. The defense, it's all scheme stuff, man. You scheme up the right stuff, and I think that this can be a middle of the pack defense, and that's saying a lot for losing your best player on defense in Micah Parsons.
And not being able to consistently create pressure.
I mean, that's the biggest way to help your secondary.
Right. It 100% is. And honestly, that might just be a personnel issue. And like, you can scheme pressure, right? Like you can find ways to create pressure through scheme. That's not a secret. But at the same time, you also have to think that, well, if you're Matt Eberflus and you're saying, okay, my top flight pass rusher isn't here anymore. I now have to find ways to create pressure because none of these guys at this point in their career, right? Like Dante Fowler at one point probably could have, but not anymore, can't create pressure one-on-one. Like that, like they none of these guys can get past a right tackle, right? Like
and not even
can't cut the edge.
The offensive tackles for the Giants are not good.
They're not good.
Sorry to hit my mic. They're terrible. That's worrisome that you are not able to create pressure consistently against that front.
Right, but that's kind of, I think, what you could have expected, right? Because like even before Micah Parsons was gone, if Micah Parsons wasn't getting pressure, the Cowboys weren't getting pressure, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's been true for a number of years, and that was also even with DeMarcus Lawrence on the team. So, like, we're talking about a group now that's minus Micah Parsons, minus DeMarcus Lawrence. So you have 0 star, you have 0 veteran leadership now, and now what? Like, you're at the point now where you have to find ways to either send extra men, which takes away from what you're doing in coverage, right? Because if you can't confidently say, and this is kind of what I was going to allude to before, Matt Eberflus, excuse me, Matt Eberflus needs to, if he doesn't have confidence in guys getting pressure, and he now needs to think, now I'm taking a gamble by more than anything else. Aw, look at that. It's adorable. But now I need to take a gamble by either sending extra men, right? Or just straight up blitzing. And now I'm taking away from coverage. And if I'm not confident in the fact that even with blitzes, even with sending extra men, that I can create pressure, then all I'm really doing is depleting my secondary even more and opening myself up to a big play. So
yeah,
and
that's
boils
why
down to it, like
that's
why I think you need to, like, this is why I think trading Micah Parsons really hurt this defense in a big way. Because if you just simply can't create pressure, it opens up your entire defense to get killed.
Yeah, and from Eberflus's perspective, I'm not asking him to be Brian Flores and blitz at that rate. What I am asking him to be like a oh gosh, his name escaped me. The DC in Kansas City. Help me out here.
Oh, Steve Spagnuolo.
Steve, exactly. Steve Spagnuolo seldomly blitzes, but when it's a big moment, when it's a need and a time where he needs to, he'll send that pressure because the quarterbacks already had that game flow of, oh, they're not sending pressure, they're disguising the back end. That's how they're trying to get me. But then he'll double a gap mug linebacker look, and then instead of dropping them like they've done throughout the game, they're sending them, on big third downs and stuff like that. So that's what I'm really asking, is just being able to show them different looks and adjust on the fly. I think, a big part of stopping the Eagles in that second half was probably that rain delay or the lightning delay, was making that adjustments in the locker room and getting to talk to the players, from that perspective a little bit more. Cause I do believe Matt Eberflus is up in the booth. So that's one of those things you got to get it figured out, because you're going to be playing better offenses, and starting with better offenses, that another team coming into town, or I guess we're going into their house actually, the Bears with Ben Johnson as the new head coach. they've got playmakers. They've got a Caleb Williams. They have DJ Moore. They have a Romo Dunze. They have a Luther Burden, seldomly used thus far, but Colston Loveland as well, DeAndre Swift. Like, they've got a plethora of weapons. Can you shut down that offense? Because on paper, they're better than, and I know Malik Neighbors is better than any offensive weapons on the Chicago Bears, but
Sure.
other than that, I mean, they have a better group of weapons that can beat you in many different ways. For that Bears team, and they're desperate. They're 0-2, and not only 0-2, but they're 0-2 in their division. They desperately need a win, and an NFC win too. Like, that helps them as well. So this is one of those games where it's like you can see this going. This is kind of like, I hate to use like a gotta have it game, but right after the Bears, you play the Packers. I personally don't believe you have enough to beat the Packers right now. I just don't. And maybe that comes to trade deadline where you're like, okay, hey, we're better than we expected. Let's go out and get a player to kind of get up to this level with the Packers, with the Eagles, with, you know what I mean? But right now, I don't think that you can beat the Packers. And maybe you do. It's a home game, so maybe you do. But you've got to face the Bears now. That's your attention, and really to spot yourself to be okay with going 2-2 against the Packers. You got to beat the Bears first. Talk about the problems they pose. Obviously, their defense. We kind of alluded to it. They're in the same boat as you with their defense. Caleb Williams hasn't looked accurate. I mean, another season where he's gone under 65% completion percentage right now. Not looking great for him, but they can scheme up things, and Ben Johnson knows how to beat your team, especially. Talk about that.
Yeah, no, I think that there's certainly a level of concern when it comes to going against Ben Johnson and seeing what he can scheme up against you. But I do think that it's worth noting that while the Bears offense projects to be a better one than the Giants, I think it is also one that is way more prone to mistakes. Caleb Williams is not a secure, mistake-free quarterback. Neither is Russell Wilson, but Russell Wilson's been around for a long time. When you think about Russell Wilson, you don't think of silly interceptions. Caleb Williams is still very early in his career. And he's a bit of a wild boy, right? Like he's a guy that, tries to extend plays when he shouldn't. He's a guy that tries to make the big throw when he shouldn't, and it turns into interceptions or just badly thrown footballs. So I think that that's something that, especially if the Cowboys can, if they can sort of take advantage of that, that's something that I think that this group of corners can take advantage of, right? Like, they can cause a lot of turnovers for Caleb Williams in this coming week. Also, one thing I do want to point out as far as this matchup is concerned is that the Bears are not particularly good at running the football. DeAndre Swift is not a terrible running back, but this is an offense that does not run the football all that effectively. This is a very Caleb Williams making a big play sort of reliant offense with, and you're right, he's got a plethora of weapons, right? Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, Cole Kmet. Like, there's plenty of guys on that offense that he has at his disposal, but the Cowboys can find ways to force him into mistakes, right? So if they can, again, as we've talked about, they can create a little bit of pressure, right? If they have ways to, sort of disguise coverages and everything like that. Like, he's still a young quarterback, right? This is also like Matt Eberflus coached him last year. Like, so he knows his tendencies. He knows his mistakes. You know what I mean? So I think that there's a real advantage here that the Cowboys can have. But I agree with you. I think that this is a defense that the Cowboys can take advantage of, right? This is not a, they just, like I said, they just got torched by the Lions. They just absolutely torched, and they're not really getting a break here with the Cowboys. They're really not. So, you want to talk about a team that has two big time receivers and a good offensive line and everything like that, and a quarterback that can sling it. Like, they're not getting a break. So listen, you're right. I think that there is sort of like a must-have it game, and Jeff makes a good point in the comments where you're just like, you want to go into playing Green Bay 2-1 instead of 1-2 because
Yeah.
that Green Bay game looks a lot like a loss right now with the way that Green Bay is playing right now. So this is a game where if you can take it in Chicago, and this is familiar territory for Matt Eberflus. He knows what the tendencies of Caleb Williams are. I think that's something that they're going to have to lean on going into next week.
Mm. Yeah, you know what? Bringing up Matt Eberflus in that respect, because former Chicago head coach, you've got to take that into account on a tendency basis, on an understanding of what the guy likes to do and likes to find. That's an underlying thing that I don't think a lot of people have pointed out thus far. So good call from you, Mike. Jeff also mentions, yeah, Caleb can be forced into mistakes. We need to take advantage of it. Absolutely. I think that this is where you understand as Eberflus, we've got to disguise some stuff. We've got to trick this guy into making plays that he thinks is gimmies into, oh crap, I didn't see that guy right there. That's an interception. Giving our offense a short field is a recipe for points. You talk about one of the best kickers in the league, or the best kicker in the league. I don't really think that there's a doubt right now.
I think Brandon Aubrey might be the best athlete that kicks a ball for a living in the world. Like,
yeah,
that doesn't just mean NFL kickers. That includes like Cristiano Ronaldo and like all them. Like I think that dude is so good.
I'll just say Brian Schottenheimer to have the kahunas to say, yeah, we're going to run a draw here so we can get it to 64 yards for the kick instead of possibly a 60 or a 58 or something like that. The amount of trust you have in your kicker is insane.
Oh God,
you remember a couple years ago, we were going crazy on the edge of our seats for 55-yard field goals. Now we're talking about Brandon Aubrey. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be able to kick a 70-yarder, and he's going to shatter the record. You're talking about a guy who not only what's the current long right now in the NFL? 65, right?
Is it 65?
It might be 66. I can't remember it entirely, but I'm just going to say that is an outlier. The amount
66,
of
Justin Tucker did it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So 66 on the double doink, right? Or the one that doinks off.
66.
Okay, yeah.
Cam Little of the Jags hit a 70-yarder in a preseason game this year, though.
Yeah, I remember that. That was insane as well. But I'm just gonna put it out there. And this is something that's crazy. You search up all of the kicks in NFL history that are over 60 yards. If you're counting preseason, Brandon Aubrey has 6 of those. That's insane. And there's not very many 60-yarders. But I'm just saying, Brandon Aubrey, by the time his career is done, he will likely have a 70-plus field goal under his belt. The dude has leg, but more importantly, he has accuracy as well. He is insane. I got to give my guy some praise. Back to the Bears, though. This Bears team, you got to force Caleb Williams into the bad play. Like you said, they don't run the ball all that well. And that's kind of surprising from a Ben Johnson offense where they've ran it so well in Detroit. Now that comes with having that great offensive line that they had in the past there in Detroit. And they've kind of tried to kind of, button up that offensive line in Chicago, but it hasn't come to fruition yet. They have a lot of problems. Caleb Williams holds onto the ball entirely too long. And then not only does he hold on to the ball too long, but when there's nobody open, he declines to throw it out of bounds and he just tries to chuck it down the field anyways. So all of those things I want to say are points that you can make to your defense that, hey, we don't need to gamble against this guy. He's going to give us one if we stay patient and we play on our keys. Our offense is going to go in and do what we do. This Chicago defense down Jalen Johnson, Pro Bowl corner, and they don't get in a lot of pressure. Their secondary is just giving up a lot of plays. I mean, you're talking about Amon-Ra St. Brown, 3 touchdowns on Sunday. Jamison Williams, 2 50-yard plus receptions. Like, that should be just like Dak, CD, Pickens should be licking their chops to play this secondary.
Yeah.
It starts with the O-line, though, protecting Dak. Obviously, we kind of alluded to it earlier and mentioned it. Cooper Beebe out 6 to 8 weeks. Brock Hoffman inserted. Now, Brock Hoffman gives you a little bit more of an edge from just a rough dog, kind of a player in the trenches, and doesn't always have the power and the strength you want to play with, but he's got grit and he's going to battle his ass off down there in the trenches. And I think that this is probably the best center backup in the league coming off the bench. If you are going to lose a guy, I don't want to say Cooper Beebe's replaceable, but Hoffman he's good enough to allow you to continue to do what you do. And then you've also got Tyler Smith, you got Tyler Booker on those sides. I think Dak's really in this world where he's like, the pressure from the middle isn't coming. All I have to do is maneuver the pocket from the edges. As long as I can do that, I'm going to get my throws off. I'm going to get the big plays. Been a couple times, and you've mentioned Tyler Guyton's looked a lot better. He has, but man, his hands are such a work in progress still. He's got to use his hands better, because there's been 4 different occasions over these 2 games where I'm like, get the ball out, because damn it, Dak has a big play downfield, and it's just, a half tick longer, and it's a strip sack instead of a big play downfield. Tyler Guyton's got to be on his P's and Q's, getting those hands up in where he's digging up and pushing back, and not always on the defense, not always getting into his kick and then and backing up. Sometimes you got to meet those guys with power too and push them off of their spot as well. I think he's way too comfortable moving backwards right now. With that being said, though, I do like the Cowboys' chances to go in here to Soldier Field and get a W. What is your thoughts on that? I mean, just go with whatever you have, man.
Yeah, no, I listen. I think the Cowboys should be favored in the game. I think the Cowboys are the better team. You're right. I think Cooper Beebe being out is a loss, but it's not critical, right? I mean, we were talking about it during the draft coverage when we were talking about the Cowboys that, interior offensive line was not a super duper need in the drafts, because you could have very easily moved Cooper Beebe to right guard and then inserted Brock Hoffman at center. Now, again, the offensive line has certainly benefited from Tyler Booker being there, but I do think that with the strength that they have in their interior offensive line, Brock Hoffman is not going to be put in a situation where he's going to have to face a whole lot of one-on-one. He's going to be, kind of tagging along with guards a lot of the time. And they'll scheme that up, I think, as well. I think they're going to try and, not put him in a situation where he's going to be exposed. And I think they'll do a pretty good job of that. Listen, like you said, the Bears don't necessarily get pressure. I'm not super concerned about, about the edges this week. I'm just not. They're not a team that gets consistent pressure.
The Giants' front is much better than what the Bears propose.
Without question. Like the Giants' front is going to be amongst, by year's end, it's going to be amongst the best in the NFL because of what they have up there talent-wise with Abdul Carter and Thibodeau and Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence. I mean, that's just a ridiculous front. It's ridiculous. So they have so much talent up there. The Bears, it isn't comparable. It's just not. So they're going to be having a much easier time. Everything that you say about Tyler Guyton is 100% true. Like I said, I think there's definitely clear improvement from him. You can definitely see the work that he's put in the offseason. But when they drafted him, he was a raw player, right? Like they drafted him as a guy he's very athletically gifted, right? He's got, very, light feet. He's a strong, big-bodied guy, but everything with him is mechanical. Everything with him is, again, like you said, it's hand placement, it's footwork, it's stuff like those are the things that he has to work on. But again, you can see the work. If it's not all there this year, it's going to get a little closer next year, and it's going to get closer the year after that, where I think he could be a legitimate
Mike,
stud
honestly, the feet aren't bad. He can get to the spots. He can shadow.
He's a gifted athlete. He can really move. He can.
It's all just technique, getting those hands in the right spot from the start,
Yeah.
not getting them slapped down with the swims and the those ghost moves from pass rushers as well, just flashing something and then having you try to stab and they're not even going there and then they're just swimming under. Those are the things he's got to just get filled out with. Which why it pisses me off so much that they didn't play him down the stretch last year so that he could get reps. I'm irked by that, but still, those are the type of things that he'll get better. The more that he sees those things, he'll get better with his hands. For as much as we made fun of him on Twitter or X or whatever it is for the boxing stuff with, how slow he kind of looked like, and doing it in the rain is just meme worthy. He has improved his hands. Still not there, not even to the average as far as NFL tackles go, but really less concerning than Tyler Guyton. I'm more concerned about Terrence Steele. He got walked back into Dak's lap, not by a backup, but by a backup's backup in that game. Would you consider switching him out for a Nate Thomas? I mean, I know that you've got money tied to him, but realistically, after this year, you could move off of him and you could just get Nate Thomas in there to develop him and be that guy that's like, hey, let's find out what we have in Nate Thomas. I know he's a 7th rounder, but he played way better than that during the preseason and what we've seen in training camp.
Mhm.
Is that a guy you throw out there? Or maybe you shift Nate Thomas to that left side where he's more accustomed to playing and Guyton over to the right side where he's more accustomed to playing. I know that's a lot of flip-flops, and Brian Schottenheimer has said, hey, I don't want to mess with the offensive line, but just from you, I know you're a draft guy. We have our draft show. We talk about these guys. We look, we diagnose, we analyze. What do you think about Terrence Steele these first 2 games, and is he a problem?
If the struggles continue, I would consider it. Right, like I don't think Terrence Steele's a bad right tackle. I think that there's potential that he had bad games, but altogether, I don't think he's a bad right tackle. But I also don't think he's a stud. Right, I think he's a very league average sort of player. So if you can find a way to upgrade that spot, I think that's great. So yeah, if his struggles genuinely continue, you get a number of weeks under his belt, and he just is simply getting put on his back, then I would consider maybe at least giving somebody like Nate Thomas some reps, right, in that spot. So I'm not totally against that move, but like kind of we've talked about already, EJ, like I just like through the first 2 games, like the offensive line is among the least of my worries. Like Dak has time to throw. You know what I mean? Like, as far as I've seen through the first couple of games, like Dak really does have time to throw, and he's got weapons. He's got good enough wide receivers right now. I mean, I would love to see another one. I would love to see them add a receiver at some point outside of Lamb and Pickens. That's not Jalen Tolbert or Kevontae Turpin. But
I think that they think Mingo's going to come back and kind of be that wide receiver 3 they need.
I hope they're right. I really do. Like, I hope they're right. But
I mean, he can't be worse than Tolbert. Let's just be honest. Like, Tolbert has been bad. And I got flack in the – I just want to say, usually – and this is not an ego thing with me. I really don't care because I've been wrong. I was wrong about Tyler Smith coming in. I was very wrong about him. He's been great. But a lot of the times when I say a guy is bad after a few games, they don't develop. I would like a little bit of praise and like, okay, maybe I gave you a little bit too much flack because Tolbert I said was bad, and I even brought it back up this season. I said I don't care what he did last season. He had the red carpet rolled out for him. CD injured multiple games. I know he had a backup quarterback, but he should have had much better stats being the wide receiver too. Brandon Cook's injured as well. For me saying that, you would not believe how many people on Twitter said I was completely wrong. Jalen Tolbert's a good player. He's an average, serviceable player in the NFL.
He's not.
He's bad. He can't even block. He can't even block right now, guys. No. Not only that, but the Cowboys shouldn't have even had to go into overtime. Or I think that maybe it was in overtime. I can't even remember. They shouldn't even had to get to the point they were if Tolbert could catch a damn ball that are right in his mitts. I can live with drops if you're a CeeDee Lamb-esque player. I can be like, okay, not good enough this time, but most of the time, 90% of the time, you're going out, you're burning your whoever's covering you. Tolbert isn't even winning one-on-one situations, and when he does, he can't even catch the ball right now.
Yeah.
It's a problem. Mingo, please get back as soon as you can. If not for Mingo, we got to figure something out. Also, Kavontae Turpin, pretty good thus far in the slot. Had a touchdown, 50-some yards, I think, this game. He's looked pretty good, but the neck injury obviously hindered him as well.
Yeah, well, Kavontae Turpin's a fun little player, right? Like I think you can use him in a lot of different ways, and we've sort of. I'm very interested to see how Schottenheimer uses him. Like I am honestly very interested to see how the season progresses and how he uses Turpin. But yeah, Tolbert can't separate. Like Tolbert, the year they drafted Jalen Tolbert, he was inactive the entire season. The guy was a healthy scratch the whole year when they drafted him as a rookie. And this was a guy that you had so many draft heads saying, watch for Jalen Tolbert. Like, watch him be like the diamond in the rough sort of guy.
Well, I thought that, I mean, you remember when we drafted him, it was Michael Gallup coming off that injury. And I was like, hey, Tolbert could be your Michael Gallup along the sidelines, long, deep ball catcher. And that's what I kind of saw from him. I never thought he was going to be a route you up kind of a guy, or a guy who's running those intermediate routes. He's not that guy. He's in the wrong role. And even when he was catapulted into the right role for him, which was that Brandon Cooks, a deep ball stuff, he wasn't good. Go back with your point, though.
No, he's not a good player. He's not a good player. He's somebody that needs to be buried on the back end of the depth chart. Like that's the kind of player that Jalen Tolbert is. So yes, I think, what my original point was going to be was like Dak has enough weapons to where he can get the ball out quickly enough to where, like, if Terrence Steele is having a problem or if Tyler Guyton is having a problem, like that's something that can be managed, right? That's something that can be schemed out of. Like, it's not like the problem that Joe Burrow has. It's not the problem that Caleb Williams has. Like, Caleb Williams was the most sacked quarterback in football last year. Like, that offensive line in Chicago is bad.
Let's bring up this this list really quick and see where Chicago is right here. 17% of his dropbacks are ending in the sack right now. 6% throwaway rate. What is the orange? Oh no, the orange is the throwaway rate. This is the incomplete bat down throws. 26.
You can see that though, right? 3% of throwaways. Caleb Williams does not like that. Just goes further into the point of like Caleb Williams tries to make plays when their play isn't there, and that's how he gets himself in trouble, right? So, and listen, I'm all for having a quarterback that will try to extend a play, right? But there comes to a point where you're just not using your head and it becomes all ego, right? Yeah. That's what Caleb Williams is doing early on in his career. And hopefully, I mean, Ben Johnson is the guy to kind of work that out of him, right? Like Ben Johnson's an offensive whiz. Like he can figure out how to get that stuff out of him. But again, like giving Caleb Williams some grace. He's going to be going into his third game of his second year. Like the kid's got a little bit of time. So let's see if he can work that out. But right now, from a Cowboy perspective, if that's something that you're seeing as a tendency for Caleb Williams, then you got to try and take advantage of that.
Yeah. And just to show that I am wrong about some things, I said Caleb Williams was going to be top 15 quarterback instantly in the league, and that's looking pretty bad for me thus far. 26% scramble rate though for Williams right now, which is something we've got to figure out how to manage, because I mean Russ didn't scramble a whole lot, but he a decent amount, enough, right? Jalen Hurts really hurt you on that stuff, and Williams is faster than Jalen Hurts. He's fast. What you really hope for is that you just spy the guy and you can tackle him without having too much stresses on it, because he can absolutely hurt you with his legs. And that was one of the big proponents of Ben Johnson actually going to Chicago. Remember, he was very critical of Jared Goff not being able to do that. So that's another aspect. I think that Ben Johnson is aware of Williams' legs and wants to actually scheme that into the playbook. So that's another thing.
And that's, by the way, that's going to be another, like you talk about, hopefully at some point soon we get DeMarvion Overshown back. You want to talk about a game where the Cowboys could use him on that defense, that sideline to sideline speed that
Yes.
Overshown gives you in a game where you have Caleb Williams and you can't really create pressure. When he kind of rolls outside of the pocket and tries to extend a play that way, you need somebody that can get downhill fast and get to him and create pressure when
Mm-hmm.
he rolls out. And the Cowboys are missing that piece on defense. So hopefully that doesn't come back to bite them at some point.
Yeah, west side of Corpus Christi says Cowboys defense scares me. You know what? We talked a little bit about Donovan Wilson earlier and about how he's bad in coverage. We talked about how the Chicago Bears aren't very good at running the ball. They're not using a lot of trap plays or though scheming up run plays where they're pulling their guards and stuff like that. This might be a game where you consider moving Donovan Wilson into more of a hybrid linebacker role because I think that he can go up and he can, as long as he's moving forward, he could be your linebacker that you're using more as the spy, the guy that go up, hit, thump these guys, and then rely on Wanye Thomas in the back end to be more of your guy that's interchangeable with Malik Hooker. Um, from my vantage point, that sounds like a cool idea. Don't know how great that is in theory. We'll see if they even consider that.
Yeah.
But right now, the linebackers are a problem, especially against these mobile quarterbacks. And I think that Donovan Wilson at least is fast enough. He's physical enough that he'll get out there and run sideline to sideline. I don't know. He's overshown, but he's the best that you kind of got from the linebacker position right now as far as diagnosis wise. Because Kenneth Murray, he's been in the league, 5 years now, still doesn't know how to diagnose correctly. He guesses a lot for how much of a veteran he is. Last thing I kind of want to pull up though is, do we have a Jake Ferguson problem? I know the stat line looks good. What did he catch? 9 balls for like 78 yards or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The stat line looks good from a tight end, but if you're not giving me anything yards after the catch, you've got to catch the damn ball when I throw it to you. And I know 9 catches, it looks good, right? But again, drop problems from Jake Ferguson, and it's become a habit of him. It dates all the way back to the last season. You can't have that, especially getting paid top 10 money now. I'm a little hesitant on Jake Ferguson right now, and I really like the guy because he brings that dog mentality. He wants to win. He wants to play for the Cowboys. He has that pedigree to be good. And I mean, hell, Travis Kelce shouted him out of all the tight ends in the league. He said, Jake Ferguson's a guy that I like to kind of be the bearer of my greatness, after I leave or whatever he said. I don't even know what he said, but something along those lines. Hasn't lived up to it thus far. He's that first year he looked like, hey man, this guy's got some things. Yards after the catch, he can catch the ball, he can do some good stuff. Then you had the dip in production that second year. I know they were trying to use Schoonmaker, whatever. Then last year gets the injury. This year he's been solid as far as stats go, but too many drops, man. You're talking about a touchdown against Philly he should have had, and that was right before the play where CD drops a ball, and then that was before the play, or sorry, that was before the play of Miles Sanders fumbling the ball. So you're talking about leaving 7 points on the field, but also 3 points on the field because you didn't catch it.
Yeah.
So that's a huge swing. You got to catch the ball. Is that a problem moving forward that you see, or are you unworried about it? You're kind of like, he'll figure it out.
It's not something that I've thought about extensively. I think drops as a problem, as a problem as a whole for the Cowboy receiving core has kind of been a bit of an issue in the first couple of weeks, right? CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Tolbert, right? Jake Ferguson has had a couple of opportunities that hasn't gone his way, right? He's got 14 catches on 18 targets this year. As far as, like you said, his numbers look good. Right now he's on pace for having a career year, but at the same time, like there is a concern there, right? Because there's a little bit of there's some some parts of the game that it seems like he's kind of throwing away. I will say, I think that Jake Ferguson is fine. I don't think that Jake Ferguson is a core issue. Because I do think that as far as just like from a production standpoint, security blanket sort of tight end, I think Jake Ferguson gives you a little bit of that. He's got like that Blake Jarwin-ish athleticism that goes along with him.
Sneaky athlete, but
exactly.
That's where I'm kind of getting though, Mike. Is it's like thus far he hasn't given you anything yards after the catch this season, and it really, I mean, if you're gonna be the safety blanket guy, be the safety blanket guy where you catch everything like a Jason Witten. You can't be the guy who are like, hey, we're gonna use you in these seam balls where you're gonna get a 30-yard reception right here, but it wastes it down because you just can't catch it.
Yeah, I don't think that Jake Ferguson is necessarily like not replaceable. Like I do think that if it comes down to a point where this is becoming a legitimate issue, like Jake Ferguson is not a player that I think you have to be desperate to hold on to. I just think for now he's fine. You know what I mean? Like I don't know that I'm gonna harp on an issue that I don't know is an issue yet. You know what I mean? Like because I think that Jake Ferguson, especially, a couple of years ago where he was a Pro Bowler, like I do think that player is in there, right? And it could just be also because, the role that he's playing in the offense right now that you've got CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, and like the offense is certainly stressed in a direction where, those guys are getting a lot of run, and Jake Ferguson could just be being placed into a role where your job, and 100% where what you're saying is that if you're going to be a security blanket type of player, you need to be a vacuum, right? Like there needs to be like your hands are super glue. So there certainly is something to be said about that. It could just be, it's early in the year. He's had a rough couple of games. I don't know. I think that there's a real opportunity here for him to just be, I think he could pick it up, but it's more of one of those things where like, if we have to replace him, we got to replace him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that it's like a premium issue that they have. It's not an edge rusher issue. You know what I mean? Like it's not something like that. It's not like we can't run the football. Like this is all right, our tight end is dropping a few more balls than he should. If we feel like we need to replace that with a non-ish premium asset, fine. That's kind of how I feel about it.
All right. And the last question for tonight's show, Mike Guido, what is the two most important positions, or I won't say most important, but two positions after two games that you would be targeting with those first two selections in the 2026 draft for the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, one of them is certainly edge rusher. Like that's I think a no-brainer. One of them, it has to be an edge rusher. It's tough for me to say what the second one is. I would, and this goes against like so many people's philosophies, and I totally get it. I totally get why. I get it. But I think, and this is like, by the way, when I say this is not taking the current class into account, right? This is just saying if we had like 2 first-round picks, blank class, what are the two positions that I would address? I would say edge rusher and running back. Those are the two things that I would say, because going into it, right? Like I'm not totally out on Javonte Williams, but if I were to just put probabilities into my head and say, what's the likelihood that Javonte Williams is the long-term answer at running back? What's the probability that Jaden Blue is the long-term answer at running back? I'm probably going to lean more towards it's probably not likely, right? And that's just how I feel about the whole thing. So I think if I were to spend 2 first-round picks today, right? The draft is tomorrow, and I have 2 first-round picks to spend, edge rusher and running back. And I honestly don't even think that I wouldn't go edge rusher, but I would say
there's some good edges in this class.
the edge is certainly something that I would address. Running back is certainly something I would address, and we talked about it a little before. Something that I think is also very much a thing that they could use as a premium asset on is a true ball hawking safety that can help over the top, right? That's something that I would like you said, if there's a Caleb Downs or there's a high end safety that you can pick somewhere out of the second round, cool, right? But 2 answers, 2 positions, edge rusher, running back. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, I think that if you ask me my perfect alignment from first, second, third, fourth round picks, or I guess not fourth round, but you've got the 2 first. I would say edge with that first pick. Then you're talking about, for me personally, if you can get, and I know Caleb Downs really, really good, if he can make it in that territory, and we'll see where the Packers pick. But usually safeties drop down the board a little bit. You talk about Brian Branch drop down. I think, what was he, a 2nd round pick? And he's great.
Dude, look at this past year. I mean, Malachi Starks didn't go until the 20s, and Nicky Manwari fell to the 2nd round. You can have,
so if you can get one of those
safeties.
guys, exactly. So if you can get one of those guys late with that Packers pick, and then you've got those positions filled, then you go linebacker in the 2nd round. Usually linebacker is a position that drops down a little bit. You get a premium, probably one of the top linebackers in the class, and then you follow that up with the running back in the 3rd round. That's where the value probably hinges on and I know you're not going to get a Jeremiah Love. You're not going to get a Price. You're not going to get a one of those guys out of Penn State probably at that. Well, maybe one of the Penn State guys fall to the 3rd, but who knows? And I haven't really watched a whole lot of these running back class or anything like that. And we're going to get into it. We're going to do some scouting before anybody this year for sure. And we'll have to plan after we get off of this. When we want to do an episode of that. But we do have a question really quick before we get out of here. When will Blue play? What to see what that kid can do, or want to see is what I guess he's saying. Blue, from what I'm hearing from insiders, Brian Broaddus, people like that. Apparently it's a playbook thing. The coaching staff just does not trust him in certain situations. Now, it's easy to get the ball on a handoff and run through the opening of a hole. That stuff's the easy part. The hard part is knowing your assignment in pass pro. The hard part is knowing, hey, if this is the call on if this is a Ringo call, where are you supposed to be pass protecting, or are you going on a route? Stuff like that. Like, that's the stuff that running backs have to get accustomed to, because it's different from the college game. You're talking about a lot of college offenses, and I know Texas, not necessarily this, but a lot of college offenses are completely night and day different from an NFL offense. So those things, from it seems like, hey, you're just getting a ball, you're running it through and you don't even usually have to catch the ball. Those things seem easy, and those are the easy parts, truthfully. But it's the other side, the blocking assignments, hey, you're on this delayed route. You're only going out if you see the linebacker, drop into coverage, or the safety roll this way, or whatever. Those are things that you're also breaking down mentally in your head and looking at it. And then if you make the wrong read on that type of stuff, and I think that the pulse or the coaches have a pulse on this. If you make the wrong read on those type of things, it's the difference between Dak Prescott getting an extra tick of a second because you picked up a blitz, or him getting completely obliterated and possibly getting injured. So that's why you're probably not seeing Blue right now, is because they can't trust him. And that's going to come with time. That's going to come with the more time he's in the playbook, the more time he's sitting with, some of these veteran running backs and understanding, like, hey, this call means this. If we yell white, in the snap count, you're doing something completely different than what you heard in the huddle. Simple subtleties like that is the difference from getting on the field or being inactive.
Mm-hmm. And he's going to be, when he first comes in, he's going to be a change of pace sort of back. He's not going to be the premier runner, on day one when he gets activated. I will say, though, when he does get activated, I do think that means that's the end for Miles Sanders. I think as soon as Jaden Blue is orchestrated into the offense. He's activated in the offense. I think Miles Sanders is bye-bye. Like I think
Yeah, and
that
one
day's over.
one aspect of it I will say that kind of irritates me is Cavante Turpin on this side in a kick return and Jaden Blue on this side of a kick return is so much better than Miles Sanders on this side and Cavante Turpin on this side.
It's not
So
even close.
much better. I would almost just put him on the roster for kick returns alone because he's so much more dynamic than Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders cost you a game. Let's just be real. He not only didn't finish the long run and just walk, get the touchdown, but he also fumbled it a few plays later. So he's really the difference between 2-0 and 1-1. So take that with a grain of salt. If you guys stuck around for the entire show, thank you so much. I'm EJ Savage. Boys in the Zone is my channel on X, on Twitter, whatever you call it, on YouTube, of course. Follow my parent network, The Grid Network, on YouTube, on Twitter, on X, whatever you want to call it. Instagram, I'm sure we have an Instagram, all that stuff. My guy Mike Guido right here. Mike Guido, is it _49 or is it Mike _Guido 49?
Just no underscore, just Mike Guido 49. It's simple.
Okay, Mike Guido 49 on X. Go follow him. He needs more followers. He's a smart guy. He knows his ball, and he knows other sports. He knows baseball. He knows basketball. He knows all that stuff. Get on with the 8 o'clock spot as well, which I don't know that we've necessarily been doing recently. But
yeah, we haven't brought it back yet.
Okay.
Yet. We'll see if we do bring it back, but we will. It hasn't been activated yet, but
yeah,
yes.
It's another fun show on the network, which is the Grid Network, GRYD on YouTube network. It's like a around the horn kind of a show. I haven't been on it in quite some time, but that's just because my show usually falls in the middle of it. But anyways, fun show. And we've got a whole host of other great shows on the Grid Network, including Cowboys Can Fan, Bi-Coastal Baseball, like we mentioned, Boston Sports Summit, Carving It Up podcast, Barry Grant Jr.'s podcast. So many different podcasts, even a UFC podcast. So if you're interested in all different sports, please do consider checking out the Grid Network. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to my channel, and we'll catch you next week. Peace.